Hello and welcome along. Here I'm going to be discussing a Teams migration, which we're going to be taking some teams from a source tenant and moving everything across to a target in M365 using the MigrationWiz tool from BitTitan. I want to show you the source tenant first of all, and then across the target tenant to show you what exists there currently. And then we're going to go through the help center, have a look at the prerequisites we might have. We'll set up the project, and then we're actually going to do the migration, so you can see it in real time how that data comes across from one tenant to another and assembles that team in the target tenant. So let's get started. Let's have a look at the MigrationWiz tool first of all. I want to have a look at the help desk article that explains how to do it. I want to run through that with you so you can see that I'm referring to that one quite closely in this setup. And you'll see how you can use those articles to really to learn how to do the migration, but always use them as a reference when you're setting up a new project as well. So once we log into our MigrationWiz account, just hitting that the sign in there, you'll get to your main page. And I'm interested in the Help Center article, which we can get to from this link. Now, what I'm interested in here is the Performer migration and the Teams migrations here, and then the Teams to Teams migration guide. Now, this is where it first talks about these prereqs, which I'll just run through with you quite quickly here. So the first thing is we have the Teams full control. This is the application access that we need to put on. So what we'll do is we'll log in to the source tenant and log into the target tenant, different browsers, and then we're going to take this link and we're going to actually paste it into that browser session, and that's going to apply those rights into that tenant, which you'll see us do. So I'll just really show you that so you can see what that really does. But the second thing we need is the MigrationWiz service account, which is just a normal account. We need to make that part of the MigrationWiz security group as well. So I'll do that on both sides as well. That really is all that needs to be done in terms of the permissioning on both the source and the target. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this Teams full control, right click on that and say copy link address. And then I'll bring up the source tenant, which is here. So we're logged in. We're actually logged into Teams here, as you can see here, just as the Cozy Mouse admin. Like this, it doesn't have to be in any particular one. As long as we're logged in, we're good. So I'm going to hit the plus here and just paste that in, and we're going to apply that as the admin. Yeah, you'll see that after we do that, it wants to apply all of these application permissions into the tenant to allow the MigrationWiz console to connect and do what it needs. So we'll say accept on that. Once it goes through, it should drop us back to the main front screen. Now we know that's been accepted and done, which is good. So I'll close that out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the target as well. So let me just bring up the target side. Here we are. This is the normal one I use, the TCG E5 demo, but you can see that this is a separate tenant. This will be our target tenant. So once again, I'll hit the plus here, and let's go into this, logging in as that one, and accepting that. That will apply those rights into the target tenant as well. There we are, that's done. Now let's go back into our source tenant here. We go to the admin page. I want to have a look at these users. If I just have a look here under show all users active, what I'm looking for is that MigrationWiz account and show you what it has in there. And if I go down here, you can see there it is right here. So let's have a look at that. So that is an account. It's just set up as a global reader. And it certainly doesn't need any more rights from that. The rights for the teams is done by that application registration that we've just done. So you can see there's our account, which is already set up. Obviously, you need to know that password. We're going to put that into the console when we set up the project. But we do need to go to the teams and groups here, have a look at those, because in security groups, there will be a group called MigrationWiz, this one here. And we need to make sure that the members includes that MigrationWiz account. There's the MigWiz at cozymouse.com. So that's done. That's all in there as well. So that is good. I will now just go and check that on the target side as well. So let's have a look at that. We'll go back to our main Yep, it's our active users. We're looking for the MigrationWiz account, which is this one here, migrationwiz@planium.com. Now this one does have a few more rights because we're doing other things with it. That one is a global administrator. Doesn't need to be, like I was saying before, it just needs to be a normal account. It is totally fine, but that is already set up, which is nice. And we need to look at the teams here, have a look at security groups, and there's our MigrationWiz security group. And if we look at members, we have the migrationwiz@planium.com as well. Now it's important that that account on both sides doesn't have MFA turned on it, because the system is doing the logon, not the front end console. So if you do have conditional access policies in there, just make sure you exclude that account from the MFA setting. So with that done on both sides, we're now ready to actually go in and set up the project. But what I want to show you first is there's our teams list that exists in the target. There's not many. As you can see there's 6 of them. And if I look at the teams on the source side, there's quite a few more. The ones I'm going to want to bring over, I want to bring over this test team 3, and I want to bring over sales team. Now if we go back and look at the target, you see we already have a sales team there already. So I want to show you what we do with name conflicts on there. I know this one doesn't have a space in it. It is actually just sales team, one word, but there could be some confusion if we just bring over sales team like this about which one it relates to. So let me show you when we do the setup for the project how we might change that name and bring that over slightly differently. So we go back to our MigrationWiz console here, and I just finish this off. As you can see, if we went through these instructions, it's now saying about the licensing and other things, but it's talking about creating the collaboration project and setting up these endpoints. So I'll close that because I'm going to show you how to do that on the screen right here. So we go into create project and we're looking for the collaboration project. So we'll give this one a project name. Let's call it Cozy Mouse Teams Demo, and from our customer list we've already have this one set up called Cozy Mouse. If you don't have one already in there, then you can just hit new. If I did hit new here, you can see you just put in these pieces of information and it will create that customer for you, but it's already in there for Cozy Mouse. So we'll go to the next step and we'll be setting up the source and the target endpoints here. So if I say new, we'll give it a name. So that's going to be Cozy Mouse. Let's call it M365 Teams, and we know it's a Microsoft Teams as a source. Now this username we're going to put in, that is that service account that we had beforehand. So I'll put in those credentials there and hit add, and nope, don't need that, and go to next step, which will be the destination. So that's going to be destination, we'll call that one the Planium M365 Teams. Teams is the destination, and you can see here we are going to be with the document versions and metadata. It's not a GCC high tenant, so we don't need to select that one, but here we would put in the details of that service account like we had on the source, like so. And we're going to tell it we're going to run the Azure storage with the Microsoft provided. If we do want to set up a custom Azure storage, then we'd click on here and put in the storage name, and the access key goes in here. For this demonstration though, I'm going to use the Microsoft provided storage. We're not transferring much data there. So now we hit add, and there. Now the other selection we have to make here is the region for the target tenant, just to make sure we have the best performance out of the console and the MigrationWiz tool. It is going to be United States, but if you were doing migrations and your target tenant location is in other locations, as I say, for the best performance it's good to have the worker units that get provided to run these tasks in the right region so that they're not slowing down going across boundaries. So we're just going to say United States for this one. And we're going to say save and go to summary. Then we can hit save project, and that will take us into the screen where we can add the items in there. Now there are 3 ways we can get the names of the teams across. We can do a quick add, which means we can just type in the team's mail nickname in the source and destination. We can type that in and close that. Or we can do a bulk add. If you had a CSV file with the same thing, with the source team, mail nickname, and the destination, you could then do a bulk add with a CSV file. So that's one option there. I'm not going to be doing that for this one. I'm going to be doing the, if I just go back, I'm going to be doing the Autodiscover, because now we've got that set up in the source. Hitting Autodiscover will go to that tenant, and if I say start, it will then look at all of the teams available and it will bring them all in. I know we're only going to migrate 2 of them, but it is nice to be able to see all of them come in for the Autodiscover, so we can then just select them instead. It's a nice way because it guarantees that the source and obviously what we're going to set up for the mail destination are correct, because obviously it finds it itself. It will be correct. So let it discover, and I'll come back in a second when that is completed. So that's completed its discovery and it's found 9 items, and so I'm going to say import items here. What that'll do is it'll bring them all across, and you can see obviously what they look like. There we go. As with normal migrations, we have some options on how we start things out. So what I want to do is have a look at the test team 3, sales team here. What you can do a full migration, but you also got verified credentials, and this is the best check to do to make sure that your API is all configured correctly, and we've got the right permissions in there, and everything is bundled together and nicely done. So by putting in that verified credentials on both of those, you can see now they've gone to a submitted stage. I want them to come back with that completed on the verification, make sure there's no errors there, before we just try and kick off a migration on those. So we'll just hang fire for a minute while we let that go through and confirm that, and then we can move on to the next step. There's some certain stages we go through with the teams. We don't just say bang, migrate teams, and it just works. We do need to run a couple of passes, and that is what we call the first pass, which is a scaffolding pass, which basically just goes through and sets up the raw framework for the team, which is obviously good to do. And then we just leave that sort of bake in for a little while, maybe half an hour or so, just to make sure it's all set correctly. And then we do a full migration of all the data, permissions, and chats, and everything that we would bring over into that. So I'm going to show you how we do that. I'm also going to show you how it looks on the target as we're doing it. So we wait for this one to come back with the verification, and then we can continue that stage. So you can see after that refresh, we've got completed verification, which means everything looks to be good, so we can continue. Now what I do want to do is this sales team here, this is the one with that name, which is potential conflict. What I'm going to do here is just hit the little pencil, and I'm going to give it a name here. We're going to actually change it, and slightly, I'm going to call this one -Cozy Mouse on the destination side, and save that. So that will come across slightly differently, and it will identify it that it came from that location. We can change things in the target once we're done, obviously, but this saves that confusion early on. So what I'm going to do now is tick both of these items, and I'm going to go up to this button here, and we'll go to full migration and see what our options are in here. So looking down the list, obviously the first one is going to be that the scaffolding setup, which is that team's creation, and then you can see once we've done that, we can then move on to the migrate data and bring over all of these different items as well. So the first one is the setup for the teams, so let's go ahead and do that and hit start migration. I can schedule it for later if I need to, but for this one we're just going to kick it off immediately and let it go through. So now we're back to that submitted stage, so we can then come back shortly and see the setup. What I'm expecting to see is on the target side we'll have team set up, but they will be completely empty. But it'd be nice to see them, at least like we say, the scaffolding done on the target tenant for those. So after that refresh, it looks like that has gone through and completed that scaffolding pass, which is good. So now let's go and have a look at the tenant, and we should see 2 extra teams in there. So if we do a refresh on that page, and there we go. We do have the sales team and also the test team. And you may be wondering, thinking, well, actually we changed that name of the sales team to sales team Cozy Mouse, so why is that not showing up here? Now that's because what we actually changed there was the underlying core email base address for that. So if we look at this sales team one here, you'll find there is our Cozy Mouse reference. So therefore we've got rid of that conflict because it would have had one with the other sales team. Now it's sales team Cozy Mouse, and I can quite easily go through here now and actually make that Cozy Mouse in there. And there is our team, and you can see now it's got the name here, but it was this guy here that was really our conflict item that we had to be taking care of. So now let's go back to the manage teams, and you can see now it will show up like so. So what I want to do now is actually do a full migration of all of the data, and we'll bring that over, and then we'll go in as the client account and see that exist inside the target tenant, the Planium tenant. So if I go back to MigrationWiz here, we'll now click on both of those again and do the full migration. Now it'll come up and say we can do the second pass, which is this one here, which is now available to us. And I'm going to be doing everything. Now you can do it in two separate passes on this and do document versioning and metadata there. What it's actually also good to do is to actually do the whole document, conversation, and teams and channel memberships here, and then do another pass and include all of these items and permission it afterwards. Now that is the preferred way of doing it, so I'm going to be doing that with this one. So we'll hit the start migration, and we'll get across all those main entities there. That goes to that submitted stage, as you can see. So we'll once again come back once that has processed and done its job there. So let's do a refresh on this one now, and I should see it gone through. And it looks like we've got a completed there, but we have a failed on the sales team. That's interesting. Let's go and see what is going on with that one. Okay, looking at that, we can see it's now completed its full migration pass. It's done 1.16 gig. 19 errors. Now I know what they're likely to be, and if I look at that, yes, that's right, the DS storage, because some of these files uploaded were Mac based, and it doesn't like sitting them in net teams. I know they're in another teams for previously, but they've managed to get up there somehow, but it's certainly not something that we can migrate, which are these, the .ds store files. There's really nothing in them really when it relates to a PC, so that's fine just to carry on and ignore those error messages. But our next stage here, as the final one, is to grab those two again, and we will then do a full migration once again. And you can see here now, we will actually grab all of the other items. So we'll do the whole lot. And yep, that's fine. I'm going to leave these ones ticked, so essentially it will go over the top, but what it's going to do is do a pickup to say if there was anything new or anything changed, it will do them. It's not going to have to redo the whole thing, it's just going to do the delta between them. So having them all set like that is perfectly acceptable with that. So we'll do that, and we'll hit the start migration. And once again, I will come back to you once that has successfully completed. Alright, so looking at that, we've got it completed again. We do have some more of those errors, though they are definitely those DS store errors that we had before, which are obviously not an issue there. So let's have a look at the target, and let's see what it looks like for Bob on his account. If I just drag that up here, you can see, looking at that now, yes, he's got the sales team, Cozy Mouse, he's got the test team 3 as well, and we've got content in there. Now you can see how it's brought the data in. It says conversation migrated from a previous tenant, so it does have the data there, but it's obviously tracked and said it was somewhere else, and it has been brought in as part of that team's migration. But what I am interested in is to make sure that all those files have come across as well. So let's have a look at files, and we should hopefully see something in there too. Was it populates that? Yep, there we go, looking at that, and yeah, so those files are there, and it's also preserved the date structure and also who brought those in, which is nice to see. If I go back to that and look at music, you see, yeah, there's plenty of things in there as well. So there we go. So it looks like now it's come across as system account. That will be if it doesn't have a reference to the user that brought them in. If the prefix of the UPN doesn't match somebody in the prefix UPN, on the target side, it's going to say it's coming as a system account. That's why on these ones here, Buck Rogers is part of our migration, and he has been brought across as part of this, but it looks like the user that created this has not. So that's where our difference lies there. I wanted to point that out and show you that. So now if I look at the test team or conference, I think we might have some files in there perhaps. Let's just have a look, see if there's anything brought across there. Just give that a second to populate. There we go. And looks like yes we do. And yep, there's some files in there, which is nice. And test team number 3. Once again, yep, some content there from previous tenant. There should be some files in there too. Yep, there we go, which is again good to see. So really that finishes up our Teams migration demonstration. Thank you for watching, and as normal, refer to those help desk articles for any more little in-depth information you need, or obviously reach out if necessary. But yes, please do have a good day wherever you are in the world, and hope that was definitely useful for you for doing a Teams migration with MigrationWiz from BitTitan. So thank you very much.